Social suicide starter pack taking Chloe Miller out in public is basically like signing up for a social suicide starter pack. The sun was out, a perfect Saturday, so I had the brilliant idea of taking her to that new, trendy bookstore downtown to pretend we were cultured. She was wearing a pink and white puffy sleeve dress, her hair in two messy buns on either side of her head, and a fluffy bunny backpack slung over her shoulders. She looked like she'd just jumped straight out of an anime. And that face, God was just showing off when he made her. Eyes so big they took up half her face, eyelashes that fluttered like tiny fans, and skin so perfect you could cry. Add to that her figure. Well, let's just say she wasn't lacking in the right places. She was the kind of girl who made heads turn on the street, a walking, talking piece of jailbait who was thankfully completely legal. And then there was me, Leo Thompson, 6'1", wearing a faded black t-shirt, scruffy from skipping a shave, with the remnants of a late-night gaming session, dark circles, hanging under my eyes. The two of us walking side by side, her skipping and humming some tuneless kid song, me looking like a haggard single dad on his day off, dragging my feet while contemplating which DoorDash order would bring me the most joy. We just got into the entrance of our apartment complex to call an Uber when an old guy sitting on a bench by the flower beds took notice. He pushed his reading glasses up his nose, his gaze flicking back and forth between us before finally settling on my face. He shook his head, his expression one of profound disappointment. The pity in his eyes was practically overflowing. "Oh, for crying out loud, son. What a damn shame. You don't even look that old. A daughter this young. Kids these days." He sighed heavily, as if I'd just committed some unforgivable crime. Me? Chloe, standing next to me, let out a puff, and her shoulders started shaking with silent laughter. She then deliberately leaned against my arm, batted her big eyes, and pitched her voice into a syrupy, sweet tone. "Daddy, what's that grandpa saying? I don't understand." A vein in my temple started doing the cha-cha. This little monster was definitely doing it on purpose. I gritted my teeth and hissed, "Chloe Miller, you pull this again, and I'm not carrying you in a single match tonight." "Oof, cheapskate," she muttered, pouting, but she toned it down. Still, the mischievous glint in her eyes was impossible to hide. After finally escaping the old man's condemning gaze, our Uber dropped us at the mall. We walked into the bookstore, hailed as the City Lights Athenaeum, and were hit with the smell of coffee beans and fresh ink. The place was genuinely nice, quiet, with soft lighting and towering floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. It had style. Chloe made a beeline for the manga and graphic novel section, flitting about like a little butterfly. I ambled over to the history section, planning to find some obscure, brick-thick book about military history to put me to sleep. I just pulled out a hefty tome titled The Struggle for Mediterranean Supremacy when a middle-aged woman in a bookstore uniform, wearing severe-looking black-framed glasses, marched over. She first shot me a wary glance. Then her eyes locked on a Chloe in the distance, who was on her tiptoes, trying to reach a hardcover picture book on the highest shelf. "Excuse me, sir." The employee's voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable authority that instantly drew the attention of several nearby readers. She pushed her glasses up her nose, the lenses glinting coldly. "This is a legitimate place of business. We have a zero-tolerance policy against child labor. I'm going to have to ask you to have that. Young lady, stop working immediately. Otherwise, we'll be forced to call the police." The air froze. A few customers lowered their books, their eyes all focusing on me. Their stares were a cocktail of judgment, condemnation, and a dash of morbid curiosity. I nearly coughed up a lung all over the expensive book in my hands. "Child labor? I brought my wife out to buy books, not to run a sweatshop." "No, ma'am, you've got it all wrong." I hastily shoved the book back on the shelf, my tongue twisting in knots. That's my family, my wife. She just looks young for her age." I tried to squeeze out a sincere smile to prove I was a law-abiding citizen. "Your family." The employee's brow furrowed even deeper, her disbelief palpable. "What kind of family?" "Your niece. She can't be older than a high school freshman, maybe, and you're making her stock shelf that high. That's dangerous. What kind of guardian are you?" I was speechless. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Chloe. The little demon was still holding her tiptoe pose, her body angled so she could watch the show while covering her mouth to stifle her giggles. Her bunny backpack trembled as her shoulders shook with laughter. Chloe, Chloe Miller, get over here. I raised my voice, a hint of frustrated anger creeping in. Chloe finally, and reluctantly, lowered her arms and trotted over, the remnants of a suppressed laugh still on her face. She stopped in front of the employee, tilted her deceptively innocent face up, and said in a crystal-clear voice, "Ma'am, he's not my uncle. He's my husband. We're legally married and everything." As she said it, she shot me a playful wink. "Husband?" The employee's eyes nearly popped out of her head. She looked from me to Chloe and back again. Her face a canvas of the world has gone mad, shock mixed with, oh God, did I just make a huge mistake, embarrassment. The surrounding customers who had been eavesdropping let out a ripple of low, suppressed chuckles. The employee's face cycled through shades of red and white. Her lips moved, but all she could manage was, "Oh, well, I'm so sorry. My mistake." Then she spun around and practically fled the scene, walking away in a flustered, uncoordinated gait. I covered my face, feeling the heat creep from the base of my neck to the tips of my ears. Chloe, meanwhile, looped her arm through mine, grinning like a cat that had just gotten the canary. "Leo, honey, you can't be so thin-skinned. You better get used to this." I shot her a glare and pinched her soft cheek. "Just shut up. I'll deal with you when we get home." The bookstore was a lost cause. We bailed, thoroughly mortified. Chloe then announced she wanted to eat at the ridiculously expensive sushi place on the top floor of the mall. Fine. A consolation prize for my wounded soul. The elevator was crowded, and we were squished into a corner. Chloe hugged my arm, her head resting on my shoulder as she started to doze off. The elevator descended smoothly. Just as we neared the ground floor, a cold, emotionless, synthesized female voice blared through the car. Safety announcement. Unaccompanied minor detected. Please ensure guardian is present. Repeat. Unaccompanied minor detected. Swish. Every single person in the elevator turned to stare at us, their gazes like searchlights, filled with silent condemnation for the negligent guardian. I even saw a young mother instinctively pull her own child closer, eyeing me with suspicion. Me? Seriously? This stupid AI has to be blind. Am I a 6'1" man standing right here invisible? The announcement woke Chloe up. She lifted her head, looking around in a sleepy daze before her eyes met my face, which was now dark enough to rival a thundercloud. She understood instantly. Instead of helping, she snuggled her face against my arm and murmured in a soft, drowsy voice just loud enough for everyone to hear, "Daddy, the elevator is so noisy." Someone nearby couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. I felt like I was about to spontaneously combust. The second the elevator doors opened, I practically dragged Chloe out, ducking my head to avoid the countless meaningful stares. Behind us, I could faintly hear a few more chuckles and someone muttering, "Kids these days, really getting creative." Chloe Miller. I ground out her name through clenched teeth as we stood at the mall entrance. She tilted her head back, her face beaming with a radiant, shameless smile. "Oh, don't be mad, sweetie. It just means I look young and fabulous. You should be happy. Come on, let's go get sushi." "My treat," she declared, patting her bunny backpack grandly. I looked at that face, a perfect blend of innocence and mischief, and all the fire in my belly fizzled out. It ended, as it always did, with a long, resigned sigh as she pulled me toward the sushi restaurant. Fine. Social suicide it is. At least I'd get a good meal out of it. This life, man, a true mix of pain and pleasure. The parental inquisition, I thought routine public humiliation was the worst of it. I was wrong. The real trial was yet to come, meeting the parents. Chloe's family situation was a bit unique. Her dad passed away when she was young, and her mom, Helen, my future mother-in-law, raised her all by herself. She was the kind of woman who was incredibly resilient, but also incredibly cautious and prone to worrying. Upon hearing that her precious daughter was dating a guy 5 years her senior, a fact compounded by her daughter's deceptively young face, Helen's voice over the phone had trembled. She'd repeatedly confirmed my age, my job, a humble video game concept artist, and my family background, solidly middle class, before reluctantly agreeing to meet. The meeting was set at a quiet, elegant bistro. Chloe and I arrived early and picked a secluded table by the window. I was so nervous my palms were sweating. I was dressed in a suit and tie, my hair slicked back, feeling like a fresh college grad waiting for a job interview. Chloe, on the other hand, was completely relaxed. She wore a relatively mature, cream-colored knit dress in an attempt to add some credibility, but on her petite frame, it just made her look like a kid playing dress-up in her mom's clothes. "Relax, Leo," she chirped, stirring her lemon water with a small spoon. "My mom just looks serious, but she's actually really nice. And look, I'm trying so hard to look like a grown-up today." She puffed out her chest for emphasis. I almost laughed at her attempt to look mature, but I was too anxious. "Babe, the problem isn't whether you look like an adult. It's whether I look like a creep who dates them." Just then, the bell on the restaurant door chimed. A well-dressed woman in a smart, navy blue suit entered. Her gaze was sharp as she scanned the room, quickly landing on our table. She walked towards us with a determined stride, radiating an aura that instantly reminded me of my terrifying high school dean. "Mom!" Chloe flew out of her seat like a little sparrow and hugged Helen's arm. A brief smile touched Helen's face as she patted her daughter's hand. Then, her eyes fell on me. The look she gave me was analytical, probing, with an undercurrent of doubt. She looked me up and down, her brow slightly furrowed. "Mrs. Miller, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Leo Thompson." I shot to my feet, trying to make my smile look both natural and dependable. I gave a slight bow and extended my hand. Helen's eyes lingered on my face for a few seconds, as if verifying something, before she finally shook my hand briefly. "Leo, please sit." Her voice was polite but cool. We sat. We ordered. The atmosphere was thick with a subtle, awkward tension. Helen barely touched her food, but her questions were all loaded. "So, Leo," she began, picking at her salad with feigned casualness, "Chloe tells me you're in the art world." "Yes, ma'am. I'm a concept artist for a video game company. I mainly design characters and environments for games," I answered respectfully. "Ah, video games." Helen drew out the words, her eyes flicking toward Chloe, who is currently engrossed in a battle with an artisanal slider. "That industry. It's full of young people, I imagine. I hear it's very progressive." I felt a knot form in my stomach. I had a feeling progressive was code for unreliable or a bad influence. I rushed to explain. "It is a young industry, Mrs. Miller, but the work is very professional and structured, and the income is stable. It's more than enough to support a family." I made sure to emphasize the words support a family. Stability is good." She nodded, not pressing the issue further. But then she changed tack. "Leo, you seem very mature." She paused, her gaze shifting between me and Chloe, the implication crystal clear. Our Chloe, she's always been very sheltered. She's a sweet, simple girl, and she looks young. When you two are out together, you must get a lot of mistaken assumptions, don't you? There it was, the main event, the core issue, delivered with surgical precision. I could feel sweat starting to bead on my back. Chloe jumped in before I could answer, her mouth half full. "Mom, who cares if people get it wrong? We don't. Leo's so good to me." "Hush you. Eat your food," Helen chided, her sharp gaze returning to me, carrying an invisible weight. "Leo, I'm not some old-fashioned prude, but with Chloe looking the way she does, how do people see you two together? The gossip must be endless. No. As a grown man, can you handle that? And what about later, if you have children?" She didn't finish the sentence, but the worry in her eyes was plain to see. A mother who looked like a high schooler, maybe even a middle schooler. The mental image was a lot. I took a deep breath, put down my fork, and sat up straight, meeting my future mother-in-law's gaze head-on. "Mrs. Miller, I understand everything you're saying. And yes, we've encountered it many times." I managed a wry smile. It would be a lie to say it's not awkward. Sometimes it's infuriating. But ma'am, I love Chloe for who she is, not what age she looks like. What other people think or say is their business. We're the ones living our lives, and we know our own truth. I paused, my tone growing more earnest. As for the pressure, honestly, it's there, but I can handle it. Chloe might look young, but she's mentally very mature. She has her own mind. She's not some child who needs me to protect her from everything. When we're together, we take care of each other. We support each other. As for the future, I looked at Chloe, who was now looking at me, her big eyes shining. We have a plan. We'll take it one step at a time. I promise you, I will do everything in my power to make Chloe happy, to protect her, and to protect our family from any gossip or judgment. I spoke slowly but clearly, every word from the heart. I saw the tension in Helen's face soften slightly, though the worry in her eyes hadn't completely vanished. She silently sipped her tea, and for a moment, the only sound in our private corner was the soft hum of the air conditioner. Under the table, Chloe's hand found mine and squeezed it tightly, a silent message of support. After a long moment, Helen finally put down her teacup and sighed. Her expression was complex as she looked at us. You young people, you have your own way of thinking. I'm getting old. I can't keep up. But Chloe, she said, turning to her daughter with a serious tone, this is your choice. From here on out, you have to taste the sweet and the bitter for yourself. All your mother wants is for you to keep your eyes open and never let yourself be mistreated. Mom, I know. Chloe nodded emphatically, her eyes a little red. Helen looked back at me. Her gaze was still scrutinizing, but had lost some of its edge. Leo, remember what you said today. I'm entrusting Chloe to you. If I ever find out you've let her suffer even the slightest bit. She left the threat hanging in the air, but her eyes said it all. You have my word, Mrs. Miller. I promised immediately, a huge weight lifting from my chest. I had passed the test, albeit barely. Though for a long time to come, I suspected my mother-in-law's gaze would always carry a hint of suspicion, a silent question of whether her son-in-law had some kind of weird fetish. But at least she had acknowledged our relationship. The road ahead was long, but I would prove myself with my actions. After saying goodbye to the formidable Helen Miller, Chloe and I felt like we'd just survived a battle. We were exhausted. On the way home, crammed into a corner of the subway car, Chloe leaned against me and muttered, "The way my mom was looking at you, you'd think you were about to sell me into human trafficking." I ruffled her hair. Hey, she's just being a mom. Can you blame her when you have a face that's practically a poster child for the underage and in need of protection act? Lucky you, she huffed, but then she leaned in close, a grin spreading across her face. But you know, Leo, you were pretty hot back there, standing up to my mom. Protect our family. Ooh, very dramatic. Nice line delivery. That was a genuine expression of my feelings, I said, pinching her cheek, though my mind was already on to the next big thing. Now that we had the parental seal of approval, it was time to make things official with my legally adult but looks like a teenager fiancé. A wedding. It had to happen. Planning the wedding turned out to be one long, catastrophic exercise in mistaken identity. First, booking the venue. We visited several places we liked. At the first one, a sharply dressed event manager greeted us with effusive warmth, giving us the grand tour. The moment I said, "We're looking for a venue for our wedding," the manager's smile froze solid. His eyes darted between me and Chloe, a look of pure, unadulterated confusion on his face. Sir, he cleared his throat, struggling to maintain his professional composure. You're saying that this young lady is the bride? He looked at Chloe, his voice dripping with uncertainty. Chloe, bless her heart, batted her big eyes and nodded vigorously. Yep. Mister, do you guys do themed birthday parties? I really like castles. The manager. His smile completely cracked. The look he gave me shifted from confusion to sheer horror, as if he just realized he was talking to a genuine psychopath. Ahem, she's kidding, I said quickly, pulling a smirking Chloe behind me. I took out my ID and our engagement ring. We are seriously here to book a wedding. She just looks a bit young. The manager suspiciously took my ID, looked from it to Chloe's face and back again, his eyes wide. After several rounds of this silent verification, he managed to force a smile that looked more painful than a grimace. My apologies, Miss Miller is just so well-preserved, a timeless beauty. Please, this way to see our packages. For the rest of the tour, his eyes kept darting nervously toward Chloe, clearly still reeling from the shock. The second venue was even better. The consultant was a young woman who, upon hearing we were the engaged couple, enthusiastically launched into her sales pitch. When Chloe excitedly pointed at a brochure photo of a dreamy, pink balloon-filled setup and said, This one is so cute. The consultant immediately replied, "Isn't it? Kids love this theme. We even have a special kids dessert bar to keep the little flower girls and ring bearers happy. By the way, have you chosen your flower girl yet?" "Chloe." "Me? I just cover my face with my hand." "Great." Now, I was the guy bringing his little sister or niece to scout locations. The venue we finally chose was managed by a seasoned, worldly woman. While she definitely did a double take when she saw Chloe, her professionalism kicked in immediately. She was efficient and courteous throughout the entire process. It was only when we were signing the contract that she couldn't help but laugh and remark, "Miss Miller, your appearance is truly a blessing, Mr. Thompson. You have excellent taste." It sounded like a compliment, but I felt like it was loaded with a dozen other unspoken, complicated thoughts. Wedding dress shopping was a disaster of epic proportions. Chloe was thrilled, trying on delicate A-line gowns and dresses with small trains. She looked like a beautiful, exquisite doll in every single one. Beautiful, yes, but she also looked like she was heading to her prom or a very high-end children's ballet recital. The shop assistants gathered around her, gushing, "Wow, you look so pretty in this one, sweetie, like a little princess. This one is perfect for you, too. So adorable. Your big brother is so patient, spending all this time with you trying on dresses." At first, Chloe would laugh and correct them. "He's not my brother. He's my fiancé." But after the 10th time, she just deflated. Pouting, she looked at me with a look of utter defeat. "Leo, should I just go check the kids section and see if they have any wedding dresses in my size?" I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In the end, the experienced store manager saved the day. She picked out a sleek, simple satin mermaid-style gown with clean lines. Paired with a more mature makeup look and hairstyle, it just barely managed to counteract the overwhelming youthful vibe she radiated. Even so, as I looked at the bride in the mirror, who still looked like a kid playing dress-up, the manager and I shared a look of profound, mutual helplessness. The final straw was sending out the invitations. When I dropped the digital invite into my Discord server with my buddies, the channel immediately exploded. My best friend, Kyle, holy yes hashtag. "TLEO, you monster. Who is this girl on the invite? She looks younger than my niece. Which high school did you snatch her from? At Leo Thompson confess. You're going to jail." My college roommate, Fat Mike. "Dude, I knew you had a type, but isn't this a little felonious? Congrats on the life sentence, man. Is the bride legal? Can we see an ID for verification?" My own cousin slid into my DMs. "Bro, seriously? Are you for real with this? This picture? This is a crime. Listen to me. Pull back from the brink. Turn yourself in, man." I was so angry I almost crushed my phone. I immediately posted a photo of our marriage certificate in the chat, with sensitive info blurred out, and typed, "Shut up. All of you, open your eyes and look. I'm a card-carrying, government-certified husband. Anyone else got something dumb to say? Your wedding gift better be the most expensive thing on the registry, and no booze for you at the reception." The chat went silent for 3 seconds. Then it was flooded with LMAO, "Holy crap, dude, MRS. Thompson is a legend for looking that young," and a storm of praying hands emojis aimed at the marriage certificate. Despite the frustrating, cringe-inducing journey, seeing our names side by side on the invitation, Leo Thompson and Chloe Miller, and watching the wedding favors and decorations pile up in our apartment, the joy and anticipation of finally tying the knot washed away all the awkwardness. Fine, let them be confused. It was just a warm-up for our beautifully mismatched love story. I even found myself morbidly looking forward to the wedding day, just to see the looks on the guests' faces when they saw the bride in person for the first time. I imagined a lot of jaws hitting the floor. 4. Licensed to wed. The wedding day arrived. The sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue. The sun was almost offensively cheerful. I stood by the side entrance to the ballroom, dressed in a sharp black tux. My palms were sweating, and my heart was hammering against my ribs like an out-of-control drum solo. It wasn't because I was nervous about the ceremony, but because Chloe was still in the dressing room. I hadn't seen her in the dress yet. After the trial run, her mom and the makeup artist formed a united front, strictly forbidding me from getting a sneak peek. They insisted on preserving the surprise of the first look, or more likely, the first shock. The ballroom was already filled with guests. A soft piano melody drifted through the air as friends and family chatted quietly. The atmosphere was warm and festive. But I could feel it, the subtle, curious glances from relatives who had only seen pictures of Chloe or had only heard about her. The whispers of the bride, so young, and looks like a kid, floated over from the older generation. The MC was my old college debate partner, a fast talker who could charm a rock. Dressed in a slick suit, he stood under the floral arch, beaming, his voice booming through the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, friends and family, on this beautiful, sun-drenched day, we have gathered to witness the most important moment in the lives of two very special people. Now, please join me in giving the warmest round of applause as we welcome our beautiful bride. The grand, stately notes of the wedding march filled the hall. The lights dimmed, leaving only a single, soft spotlight aimed at the grand, flower-entoil-draped double doors at the far end of the room. My heart skipped a beat, then started pounding even faster, threatening to leap out of my throat. I stared at those doors. Slowly, they swung open. In the spotlight, Chloe appeared, holding her mother Helen's arm. Time seemed to freeze. She was wearing the custom satin mermaid gown, a style chosen specifically to look more mature and elegant, its smooth lines accentuating her surprisingly curvy figure. A delicate, short lace veil partially obscured her small, heart-shaped face. The makeup artist had clearly gone all out, giving her smoky eye and bold red lips in an attempt to add some gravitas. But that face, those eyes, which looked even bigger and brighter in the spotlight, that tiny, upturned nose and those full, red-painted lips, and the aura she radiated, a mixture of innocence and nervous excitement. The spotlight created a hazy halo around her, which, instead of adding maturity, made her look even more like a meticulously dressed-up elf who had wandered into the world of adults. Or a stunningly beautiful teenage girl about to attend a royal coronation. A strange silence fell over the hall. The chatter and music evaporated. Hundreds of pairs of eyes were locked on the bride at the entrance, their expressions a mixture of shock, confusion, and utter disbelief. I could clearly see a few aunts in the front row with their mouths hanging open. I saw my best man, Kyle, rubbing his eyes as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I saw Mike, the other groomsman, frozen with a handful of nuts halfway to his mouth. A giant, unspoken question mark hung in the air. This is the bride? Are you kidding me? The MC, standing under the arch, was visibly stunned by the high-impact first look. His professional smile faltered for a second, a flash of pure bewilderment in his eyes. He instinctively glanced down at his cue cards, as if to reconfirm the bride's name. But in the dead silent hall, that brief pause felt like an eternity. Helen, too, could feel the bizarre atmosphere and the judgmental stares. She tightened her grip on her daughter's hand, her smile strained but polite, the worry in her eyes palpable. It was into this suffocating silence that the MC, powered by sheer professionalism and some vague memory of me, saying the bride looked young, finally found his voice. He plastered the smile back on his face, though it looked a bit forced. He raised the microphone and, in a booming, overly enthusiastic voice meant to inject some life back into the room, he bellowed. And now, let's give a massive, thunderous round of applause to welcome our beautiful bride and her loving father. Please, sir, present your beloved daughter to our groom, so she may begin the next chapter of her life. Boom! If the silence before was a vacuum, the MC's words were a bomb that detonated the entire ballroom. Father? Who's a father? Oh my God, he got it wrong. I knew something was off. She doesn't look old enough. What is wrong with this MC? Is he blind? Where's the groom? This is so embarrassing. Helen's face just went completely white. A tidal wave of whispers, gasps, and disbelieving murmurs erupted, like a pot of water boiling over. All eyes darted between me. The mortified mother and daughter duo frozen at the entrance, and the MC on stage, who had finally realized the colossal blunder he'd made and whose face was now ashen. The scene was pure, unadulterated chaos. The cringe level was critical. Helen swayed on her feet, her face pale as a sheet, her lips trembling as she glared at the MC with a look of pure fury and humiliation. And Chloe, my poor, legal but looks like a teenager wife, was trapped in the spotlight, bearing the brunt of the entire room's complicated attention. Her beautiful eyes instantly filled with tears of hurt, of shame, of helplessness. She looked like a baby deer caught in 100 headlights. She bit her lip so hard, trying to keep the tears from falling, that it made my own heart ache. All the social suicides, all the misunderstandings, they were nothing compared to this. This wasn't just embarrassing me. This was putting the person I loved most in the world on trial by fire. A surge of uncontrollable rage shot through me, burning away all reason and nervousness. Screw the ceremony. Screw being the calm, elegant groom. I shoved past my equally stunned groomsmen, Kyle and Mike, and charged towards the floral arch like a cornered lion. In front of hundreds of shocked faces, I snatched the microphone right out of the MC's limp hand. The cool metal of the mic felt like an anchor in my burning rage. I could hear my own ragged breaths amplified through the speakers, echoing in the suddenly quiet hall. Quiet! Everyone, just shut up! I roared into the mic, my voice raw with anger, but shockingly clear. It cut through the noise like a knife, instantly silencing the crowd. Hundreds of pairs of eyes swiveled to me, filled with confusion and curiosity. I took a deep breath, trying to regain a sliver of composure, but my eyes were sharp as I scanned the faces in the crowd. My gaze finally landed on the small, trembling figure in the spotlight, looking so fragile and so hurt. My heart clenched. I raised a microphone, my voice booming and resolute, each word landing like a drumbeat. Let's get something straight. The woman on stage, Mrs. Helen Miller, is my respected and beloved mother-in-law. I turned and gave a deep, respectful bow to the pale-faced Helen. Then I spun back around, my arm shooting out to point directly at Chloe. My voice rose, filled with a fierce, possessive tenderness. In her, Chloe Miller, she is not a daughter. She is my lawfully wedded, licensed to wed, government and God-recognized wife. The words hung in the dead silent air. Pin-drop silence. Before anyone could process this explosive declaration, I acted. My right hand shot into the inner pocket of my tuxedo jacket, where I've been keeping our most important document. Swish! I held up 2 documents, our official marriage certificates, like a triumphant banner. The gold seal of the state gleamed under the spotlight, an undeniable, irrefutable beacon of truth. Look closely. The certificate, the official seal, the date, the name, Chloe Miller. I was practically shouting, my finger jabbing at her name and her still youthful but officially stamped photo. I wanted to shove it in the face of every single person who had doubted her. She's an adult. She's legal. She's my wife. 100% authentic. No refunds. No exchanges. The air in the ballroom seemed to solidify. Everyone was stunned into silence by my outburst and the hard evidence I was brandishing. They stared at the 2 small pieces of paper that carried so much weight. Shock, confusion, dawning comprehension, embarrassment, amusement. A kaleidoscope of emotions played across the guests' faces. But right then, in that moment of ultimate silence, as I stood there holding our marriage certificate, ready for the fallout, click, every single light in the ballroom went out. Darkness. Absolute, complete, and utterly unexpected. A chorus of screams from the female guests. What happened? A blackout. Ow, you stepped on my foot. Don't push. Phones. Get your flashlights on. After a moment of panic, small points of light from phone screens began to pop up like fireflies, barely illuminating the chaotic silhouettes. But most of the room remained shrouded in thick darkness. My hand, still holding the certificates, was frozen in midair. The sudden blackout had thrown me for a loop. The righteous anger that had been fueling me was doused by the darkness, leaving only confusion and a sense of the absurd. What the hell was happening? As I tried to get my bearings, to find Chloe or the MC, a familiar, sweet, fruity scent wafted near my neck. A warm presence pressed against me. It was her. In the dark, a small, cool hand found my free one and laced her fingers through mine, squeezing with a reassuring pressure. Then, her soft body leaned in my chest, the rustle of her wedding dress a soft, intimate sound. Then I felt her stand on her tiptoes, her warm, moist breath, smelling of her unique, sweet perfume, feathered across my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. The sensation grew closer until her soft lips were almost brushing my earlobe. A low, husky whisper, laced with a wicked playfulness and an irresistible allure, snaked its way into my ear. "Honey," she drew out the word, her tone sultry and teasing. That was incredibly hot. She paused, her warm breath even closer now, a mere ghost of a sound, each word a tiny jolt of electricity down my spine. "So, for our wedding night tonight, are you still going to pretend to be my daddy?" Whoosh. I felt every drop of blood in my body rush to my head, and then, just as quickly, plummet south. The anger, the embarrassment, the confusion, all of it was vaporized by that single sentence, replaced by a raw, primal heat that roared through my veins. This little demon, to tease me at a time like this, in a pitch-black room filled with hundreds of people. The darkness amplified everything. The softness of her body pressed against mine. The cool satin of her dress a stark contrast to the heat radiating from my skin, her slightly accelerated heartbeat a drum against my chest. The scent of her breath, a mix of fruit and her own unique fragrance, was more intoxicating than the strongest liquor, igniting every suppressed flame within me. Almost on instinct, my arm tightened around her waist, pulling her impossibly closer. In the dark, I could picture her expression perfectly, that of a sly little fox who had just gotten away with something, her big eyes sparkling with mischief, her lips curved into that smug, provocative smile that I both loved and hated. "Chloe," my voice was hoarse, a deep warning as I lower my head, trying to find her lips by feel alone. "I am," she whispered back with a soft, triumphant giggle, her warm breath fanning across my chin as she met me halfway. Just as my lips were about to capture hers. Click! Zap! FWOM! The giant crystal chandeliers on the ceiling burst back to life. Then the wall sconces, the decorative lights, the stage lights. Every light source in the room flickered on in a brilliant, blinding cascade, illuminating the entire opulent ballroom in an instant. The sudden, harsh light made both Chloe and me squint. When our eyes finally adjusted, the scene before us was enough to make me want to dig a hole and crawl into it forever. The entire crowd of guests was frozen in their mid-blackout poses. Some holding up phones, some steadying each other, some still bent over looking for dropped items. But every single one of them was now staring, with perfect, unified precision, directly at us. Chloe and I were still locked in our intimate, dark-room embrace. Me leaning down, on her tiptoes, our lips mere millimeters apart. We were caught, red-handed, under the full glare of 1,000 watts. Time froze. Again, hundreds of pairs of eyes stared as the bride and groom, during the brief blackout, had apparently been unable to restrain themselves. The groom's hands were clamped tightly around the bride's tiny waist. My grip had wrinkled her dress. The bride's little hand was still laced with the groom's. Their faces were pressed together, noses almost touching, lips about to meet. The pose, the atmosphere, it was the prelude to something you'd need a parental advisory for. Dead silence. A silence even more profound than when the MC had messed up. The air turned to glue. Chloe and I were frozen, statues in the spotlight. I could feel the body pressed against mine go completely rigid. The hand on my shoulder tightened its grip, her nails digging into my tux. Her face, which had been inches from mine, turned a spectacular shade of crimson, a blush that spread all the way to the tips of her ears, which looked like they were about to spontaneously combust. Her big, mischievous eyes were now wide with pure, unadulterated horror. It's over. This is the ultimate social death. I can never show my face in public again. No matter how thick my skin was, right now it felt like it was being roasted over an open flame. It was all over. My grand, heroic gesture of brandishing the marriage certificate was completely overshadowed by this mortifying spectacle of being caught in the act. After a few seconds of excruciating silence, the audience finally reacted. Bah ha ha. It was Kyle. My best man was the first to break, letting out a roar of laughter so loud it echoed through the hall. He was bent over, slapping the table. Holy crap, Leo. You're a legend. A true legend. A licensed husband, huh? Didn't even let a blackout slow you down. Ha 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 ha. His laughter was the spark that lit the fuse. Ha 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 ha. Oh my God. I'm dying. This is hilarious. The groom couldn't wait. Ha ha. The bride's face is so red. It's adorable. Ha ha ha. Youth. So full of energy. This wedding was worth every penny. Best entertainment ever. Ha. Laughter, whistles, and the sound of tables being slapped erupted like a tidal wave, nearly blowing the roof off the ballroom. The awkwardness and tension from the MC's mistake and the blackout were completely washed away by this new, hilarious, slightly risque turn of events. Everyone was grinning. Even the most stoic uncles were wiping tears of laughter from their eyes. Helen stood off to the side, watching us still tangled together, our faces beet red. The last vestiges of her worry and embarrassment finally melted away, replaced by a look of exasperated amusement. She covered her face with her hand, her shoulders shaking with laughter. The MC, having survived multiple heart attacks in the span of 10 minutes, finally regained his professional footing and his will to live. He grabbed a backup microphone. I was still clutching the first one, and his face a mixture of relief and barely suppressed laughter, tried to regain control of the situation. Ahem, ladies and gentlemen, it seems our bride and groom's love is so powerful, not even a total blackout could keep them apart. As the poets say, a love like this, it conquers all. Ha ha. He couldn't help but laugh along. But, he continued, his tone still joyful, the power is back on. The lights are bright. So perhaps we should continue with the ceremony? Mr. Groom, Mrs. Bride-to-be, maybe you could. Separate for a moment. We still have vows to exchange and a toast to make. The laughter in the hall grew even louder. Chloe, I finally broke apart as if electrocuted. She kept her head down, covering her bright red face with her hands, looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. I cleared my throat awkwardly, handed the now sweaty microphone back to the MC, and tried to smooth out the wrinkles on my tuxedo, my face hot enough to fry an egg. The rest of the ceremony proceeded in an atmosphere of pure, unadulterated joy and good-natured teasing. When we exchanged rings, my hands were still shaking. When Chloe put the ring on my finger, her head was bowed, so low all I could see was the top of her veil. Every time the MC read from the script, a new wave of chuckles would ripple through the crowd, and the champagne toast was accompanied by thunderous applause, whistles, and camera flashes, all documenting the impatient couple's blushing faces. When we finally made it to the end, and the MC announced, "The ceremony is complete. You may now kiss the bride," the room went quiet for a split second before erupting into the loudest cheer yet. Kiss, kiss, kiss. The last one didn't count. Do it again. Make it a real one. Show us what that license is for, Leo. Amidst the deafening roar of the crowd, I looked at Chloe. She was peeking up at me, through her lashes, her eyes still misty and shy, but with an undercurrent of, what the hell, we've come this far, exasperation and a sweetness she couldn't hide. The blush on her cheeks was like the finest rouge, making her look even more radiant. Screw it. Screw social death. I have a license. I can kiss my own wife. It's the law. I threw caution to the wind. In the midst of the thunderous cheers, I reached out, cupped her hot little face in my hands, and under the watchful eyes of everyone, including a now genuinely smiling Helen Miller, I lowered my head and gave her a real, no-holds-barred kiss. The moment our lips met, all the noise faded away. There was only the sweet, soft taste of her and the sound of my own heart, beating like a drum, steady and sure. Let them stare. This mortifying, wonderful, legally wed woman in my arms was mine, and I had the papers to prove it. 5. The daily cringe married life. Ha! In Chloe's words, it was officially licensed for daily cringe. Take our weekend grocery runs, for example. I'd be pushing a cart overflowing with chips, soda, and instant noodles, my half, and a rainbow of snacks, yogurts, and fruits, her half. Chloe, wearing a teddy bear hoodie and a pleated skirt, would be bouncing around like a high schooler on a snack raid, tossing things into the cart. Leo, look, new cherry blossom flavored Jell-O, It's buy one, get one free, she'd exclaim, holding up a box, her eyes sparkling. A nearby grandma, shopping with her grandson, would overhear. Her eyes would sweep over us, her brow would furrow, and she'd turn to her grandson and say, "See, sweetie, that's what happens when you don't study. You grow up and all you care about is candy, and you still have to make your daddy buy it for you." Chloe, me. I would silently place the bag of hot fries I was holding back on the shelf and pretend I didn't know her. Or the time she came to wait for me after work. She was sitting on a couch in the building lobby, her legs swinging as she played a game on her phone, her pink backpack beside her. The new receptionist, full of concern, walked over. "Hey there, little one. Are you waiting for your parents? Do you want me to help you call them? It's not safe to be here all by yourself." Without looking up, her fingers flying across the screen, Chloe chirped, "It's okay, thanks. I'm just waiting for my husband to get off work." The receptionist. What? Her smile froze on her face. Her eyes drifted to me as I walked out of the elevator, her expression screaming, "The moral standards at this company are shockingly flexible, aren't they?" I walked over with a straight face, grabbed the hand of my wife, who was shaking with suppressed laughter, and gave the petrified receptionist a curt nod. "She's with me. It's legal." Then, under the receptionist's stunned gaze, I dragged my underage wife out of the building as fast as I could. But the absolute peak was the neighborhood block party. The HOA was organizing a family field day, with the grand prize being a grocery store gift card. Chloe's eyes went wide when she saw the flyer mentioning go-kart racing and family relay race. She hugged my arm, whining, Leo, let's go please, please. We could totally win. Think of all the ice cream we could buy with that gift card." Looking at that face, which practically had, "I want to play," written all over it, I couldn't say no. Fine, we go. It'd be like reliving my childhood. With my wife. On registration day, we went to the HOA office. The person in charge of sign-ups was the same busybody, Mrs. Gable, who had once reported me for child labor. She adjusted her glasses, looked at the sign-up sheet, then looked at the excited Chloe standing next to me, and her brow nodded. "Leo, Mrs. Gable said, her tone grave, this family field day is for families with children. You can't bring your little sister to compete. It's just not appropriate." She gestured at Chloe. "She's a sweet-looking girl, I'm sure, but all the events are for a parent and child to do together. Her role here isn't right." Chloe immediately went into actress mode. Her lip trembled, her big eyes welled up with tears, and she looked at Mrs. Gable pitifully. "Ma'am, I'm not his sister. I just really want to ride the go-karts." Mrs. Gable's heart melted a little, but she was still conflicted. "Oh, now, don't you cry, dear. It's not that I don't want you to play, it's just the rules." I took a deep breath, expertly unlocked my phone, went to my photo gallery, and pulled up the pinned photo, the one from our chaotic wedding, of us kissing, red-faced, while the crowd cheered. I held the screen up to Mrs. Gable's face, my voice perfectly calm. "Mrs. Gable, please look closely. This is my wife, Chloe. The kind to get a license for. We are entering the family field day," I said, putting heavy emphasis on the word family as a family. "Perfectly legal, roles fully aligned. Is there a problem?" Mrs. Gable leaned in, squinting at the screen for a full 10 seconds. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock to dawning realization, finally settling on a complex look of embarrassment, amusement, and, well, I'll be damned. She looked up at me, then at Chloe, who had instantly dropped the sad puppy act and was now grinning like a sly fox, and finally shook her head in resignation. She scribbled on the registration form, "Leo and Chloe Thompson, married couple." Fine. You kids today always have to be different." Mrs. Gable grumbled as she stamped the form. "But listen here, this is a race, not a demolition derby. Don't you two get any funny ideas in those go-karts?" As it turned out, Mrs. Gable's fears were unfounded. On the field, our two-person family team was unstoppable, especially in the go-kart race. Chloe, in her pink race car, used her small size to her aerodynamic advantage, weaving through the other parents and their actual children with a fearless, reckless energy that secured her first place in our heat. When she crossed the finish line, she jumped out of the cart and screamed with joy, leaping into my arms, completely oblivious to the stares of the other kids, who were looking at her like she was some kind of weird alien Annie. Holding the hard-won gift card, Chloe was as proud as a cat who'd stolen a whole rotisserie chicken. She linked her arm in mine, her head held high. See, the benefits of being legally married. A gift card. Freedom to buy all the ice cream. I messed up her hair, looking at her sparkling eyes and flushed cheeks in the afternoon sun. All the frustration from the constant public cringe just melted away, replaced by a warm, solid feeling of contentment. Who cares what anyone else thinks? This infuriating, wonderful, walking social disaster of a woman was my wife. We had a license, we had love, and now we had a gift card we'd won together. Isn't this what life is all about? A little bit of chaos, a whole lot of sweet. Oh, and by the way, that gift card was spent entirely on her favorite strawberry ice cream and an obscene amount of sugary snacks. My chips. I could dream about them, I guess. 6. Imagining home. The night was soft, a vast, velvet curtain draped over the city. Outside our window, neon lights blinked and ribbons of traffic flowed silently below. Inside, only a single warm, yellow floor lamp was on, casting a cozy glow across the hardwood floor. Chloe was sitting cross-legged on the plush rug. She just showered and was wearing one of my old, oversized t-shirts that came down to her thighs, revealing 2 slender, bare legs. Her damp hair was loose, a few strands clinging playfully to her neck. She was focused on her laptop, her hand moving a stylus quickly across a graphics tablet. On the screen was a cute, chibi-style game character she was drawing, round, with big eyes and unbearably adorable. It was very on-brand for her. I walked over with 2 mugs of hot milk and sat down beside her, placing one on the small end table next to her. I gently ruffled her damp hair. "Hey, Picasso, take a break. Drink something." She didn't look up, just mumbled an her stylus never pausing. "Just let me finish the blush on this little panda. I'm almost done." The panda on the screen was indeed cute, with 2 perfect pink circles on its chubby cheeks. I leaned back against a nearby beanbag chair, sipping my own milk, my gaze fixed on her focused profile. The warm light traced the soft lines of her face. Her long lashes cast tiny, fan-shaped shadows beneath her eyes. Her nose was slightly upturned, and her lips were pressed together in concentration. Without all the exaggerated, mischievous expressions, she was just quiet, beautiful, a perfect, pure loveliness somewhere between a girl and a woman. Even after seeing it every day, that face could still make me stop and stare, filling my chest with a swelling sense of pride and contentment. "What are you looking at?" "Never seen a beautiful artist at work," she said suddenly, a hint of smugness in her voice. Her eyes were still glued to the screen, but the corner of her mouth quirked up. "Nope," I admitted freely, taking a sip of milk. "Just admiring my legally certified beautiful artist. A sight I'll never get tired of." She finally added the last stroke, studied her work with satisfaction, then put down her stylus and stretched, the hem of her t-shirt riding up a little. She turned and, like a lazy cat, crawled over and unceremoniously claimed the most comfortable spot in my lap. She rested her head against my legs and picked up her mug, taking small sips. "The client finally approved the design today," she said, her voice soft with relaxation. "They said my drawing of the cartoon family felt really warm, like it had the feeling of home." She was talking about a series of promotional illustrations she'd done for a family-focused app. I leaned down, my chin brushing the top of her head, which smelled faintly of shampoo. "Of course they did. My wife is a genius. They got a bargain." "Ha, flatterer," she mumbled, but she snuggled deeper into my lap, finding a more comfortable position. "But still, the feeling of home," she repeated quietly, her voice a little distant as she stared at the warm glow on the ceiling. "Leo, what do you think our home will be like in the future?" I knew what she was thinking about. The wedding disaster, the MC's blunder, the mortifying blackout, and the endless daily misunderstandings. They had all become funny stories we told each other, but I knew they'd left tiny, faint scratches on her heart. As she was drawing a warm, happy home for someone else, she was probably sketching out her own vision for ours. Our home. I tightened my arms around her, my fingers absently twirling a strand of her cool, damp hair. My voice was soft but certain. It'll definitely be noisy. You'll be yelling when you lose a video game, and I'll be slamming my desk when I'm on a deadline. The pantry will be stuffed with all your favorite snacks, and the fridge will always be stocked with my beer. We'll have to build you a little garden on the balcony for all your succulents, even though you'll probably kill half of them. Hey, she protested, bumping my chin with the top of her head. I laughed and dodged her. The living room needs a really thick rug, so you can roll around and play games whenever you want. And the office, it has to be big. Big enough for your whole tablet setup and my easel. And it has to be soundproofed so we don't drive each other crazy. Oh, and we have to get a cat. That fat orange tabby you're always talking about. I've already got a name picked out. Biscuit. Biscuit. Her eyes lit up, her attention completely diverted. I love that name. It's so soft and fluffy. Yep, I said, leaning down to kiss her forehead, looking into her shining eyes. And most importantly, our home will have 2 people in it. Me and you. Who cares what anyone else thinks? Who cares about the mistakes and the cringe? When we close our door, it's our own little world. You're Mrs. Thompson, and I'm Chloe Miller's husband. Licensed, certified, and with a lifetime warranty. She didn't say anything, just tilted her face up to look at me, her big eyes reflecting the warm lamplight like they held tiny stars. Then she put down her mug, wrapped her arms around my neck, pulled my head down, and pressed her soft, milky sweet lips firmly against mine. It was a long, gentle kiss, not rushed with passion, but filled with a deep, comforting sense of belonging. After a long moment, she pulled back, her cheeks flushed. She rested her forehead against mine, her nose brushing against mine. Okay, she whispered. It's a deal. But the house has to have 2 huge monitors. One for your games, one for my art. And Biscuit's cat tree has to be the tallest one they make. Deal. I smiled, pecking her on the lips again. Whatever Mrs. Thompson says goes. She hummed in satisfaction and snuggled back into my lap, picking up her tablet and opening the House app. She started scrolling excitedly. Okay, so I'm thinking this Japanese minimalist style. Ooh, look at this giant beanbag. It's big enough for both of us and Biscuit. The warm light enveloped us, the air filled with the sweet smell of milk and her fresh out of the shower scent. Her laptop screen had gone dark. The graphics tablet lay forgotten. The only sound were the soft swipe of her finger on the tablet and the steady, rhythmic beat of my heart. Outside, the city lights continued to blink, the traffic flowed on. But in our little world, it was just us. She was my beautiful, mortifying, legally wed wife. She was the center of my chaotic, sweet, everyday life. And she was the warm, vibrant heart of every dream I had about home. Let the world outside be a raging storm of judgment and misunderstanding. I had my license. Who was I afraid of? The whole world was right here in my arms.